in summary of the short presentation I'm going to do around looking forward, which is at a higher level, is that we're on track in this industry and we're trying to avoid volatility. We need to stick to the plan. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want these better prices to lull us into a false sense of security. And we need to take some real lessons around cost of production that we should be learning from other industries. Because if you start to work your cost structures around high returns, and then you get a little bit of volatility, you can get, as Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, are you wearing your swimming togs? So, looking forward, the key here is, and I'm just going to run through what we think are some of the key issues, and it is a culture of discipline. It's adherence to the industry plan, and that plan tends to come under pressure if products restricted or traditional supply chains are challenged. This industry is building some really good new supply chains in both velvet and venison, some new in-market partners, and we want to make sure that as collectively that we support those supply chains that are opening up, because that's the success, the key to the long-term success, not only in on-farm pricing as cascades through, but also to restricting that volatility. Communication is important. The communication, I would like to think, in the industry has improved dramatically in recent times. We've got a lot more mechanisms, a lot of it revolving around the P2P program, a lot more mechanisms where we can communicate with each other, but we're nowhere near where we need to be yet. As you know, we had a bit of a discussion at the DFA this morning, and I look forward to continuing to develop those communication lines with the DFA over the next period. You might recall at the MEFFIN conference in 2013, I mentioned one or two of the Jim Collins philosophies about what we needed to do, and we're at a very early phase. We hadn't started to execute. We didn't even have permission from the government to run into the Passion to Profit program at that point, or the PGP bid. But if you think about the flywheel effect and about putting your shoulder to the grindstone and continuing to work hard, we're really only a third of the way around the flywheel at the moment. There's a hell of a lot of hard work to do. I'd like to think what we have done, if you look at the bottom of that circle, is we have got people lined up and energised. We're starting to see some results coming through, and I emphasise starting to see some results coming through. But these things take a little time. In terms of momentum, which I mentioned right at the start, this industry should be able to create momentum for itself faster. We're not an oil tanker, we're a little yacht, and we should be able to move a little bit quicker and make decisions faster. If you think about that hedgehog concept at the hedgehog concept at the top, and just thinking back to what is the hedgehog concept, it's the intersection between what you're passionate about, and there's no doubt that people in this room are passionate about deer, what you're good at, and I think generally the people in the production end of this room are very good at turning grass or turning forage into meat and velvet, and we'll hear a little bit more about that later on in the afternoon, and also what makes money. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're passionate, it doesn't matter if you're good about it, if you don't make money, you don't carry on doing it. And that's one of the challenges we've seen in the industry, competing with other sectors in recent years. We need to use science and technology accelerators to move us into a different space. And I just wanted to mention this concept of productive paranoia, because at this time, it's actually quite important to think about what that means. And it really means staying attuned to the threats in our industry and our system and our profitability and our social structure, because sometimes it's easier to take your foot off the accelerator when you think times are good than when times are bad. You know, it's a bit like being halfway through a rugby game and you're 15-0 up at half time, and you take the foot off and suddenly the opposition's caught you in the first 10 minutes of the second half. And I think it's very important that now that we actually do have positive momentum, we do have some better pricing, we keep our foot hard down. I'm very optimistic that the opportunities outweigh the risks, and you'll hear a lot of those stories in the next 24 hours, but we do need to remain really alert. This concept of firing cannonballs, once we know the bullets are finding their target, is at the core of P2P. The Passion to Profit program is about having a crack. We don't have the industry reserves or the collective dollars to spend the next 5 years wondering what to do. We've just got to give things a try, and we will get some things wrong. We have got some things wrong, but the majority of them are really bearing awards. There's a whole raft of initiatives, both in market and on farm. So, obviously advanced parties would be one I could mention on farm, that it's farmers that are doing that, having a crack, and some are working better than others, but we're collectively working out in an iterative manner what works and what doesn't work. And that comes down to a whole raft of things that build trust. If we can't build trust in each other, if inside the farm gate we don't have trust that the market or processors are doing the right job in the market, then the relationship won't last. Conversely, if the marketers don't have the confidence and the trust they're going to get the product, then they lose the confidence to push hard in that marketplace. And just going right back to Wanaka when we first started to set the strategy in 2012, and Innes Moffat, and apologies from him, he's in Europe at the moment, but what does success look like? And we set a target of another $2 per kilo of product EBIT or profit. And we thought $1.27 of that can come from on-farm product profitability and 73 cents from off-farm. Now, there's a lot of work gone on since then, but there's nothing that's in front of the DINS board or the DINS executive right today that would say that $2 a kilo of product or $137 per breeding hind is in danger of not being met. But we tend to underestimate what we can do over 10 years, and we overestimate what we can do in 1 year. And we're just starting to see there's some real results spin out. So just to conclude there, what does it take to make it happen? And I've got those 3 circles there. The first one is we need to make a commitment, and the industry collectively did that about 3 years ago. We've got to be tenacious and collaborate to realise the opportunity, and I would say we're about a third of the way into trying to make that work. We're at the start, but it is really starting to happen. And then this bit about amplifying outcomes is that once we've had a crack, scale it up. And the scaling up process does take time, but that's a confidence issue that once you've started it, you can move on to bigger and better things. And Jim Collins actually said this in 2011. It was repeated quite a lot, but he actually stole the saying off Abraham Lincoln, who said it 200 years ago, whenever it was. We cannot predict the future, but we can create it. So the collective